A racist loudmouth, Gary Miller, picks the fight of his life when he slaps 16-year-old Aisha Jackson in a corner store, spewing hate and thinking he's untouchable, but he's dead wrong. Her father, Marcus, a no-nonsense cop, storms in and flips the script. What follows is a fiery showdown of justice, regret, and a coward begging for mercy he won't get. This isn't just a slap. It's a wake-up call that'll burn in your mind. Now let's go to the point. It was a hot afternoon, the kind where the air feels thick and people's tempers are already on edge. Down at the corner store on Maple Street, 16-year-old Aisha Jackson was just trying to grab a soda. She'd had a long day at school dealing with teachers who didn't get her and classmates who sometimes stared too long because her skin was darker than theirs. She was used to it, though, toughened up by years of little comments and sideways looks. Aisha was a smart kid, quick with her words, and she wasn't one to back down when someone crossed the line. She walked into the store, her sneakers squeaking on the tile floor, and headed straight for the cooler. That's when she saw him. Gary Miller, a 40-something guy with a scruffy beard and a faded baseball cap. Gary was a regular around town, the kind of man who always had something loud to say, usually about how things used to be better. He was standing by the counter arguing with the cashier over a pack of cigarettes, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the store. "You're charging me too much," Gary barked, slamming his hand on the counter. "This is robbery. You people always trying to rip me off." The cashier, a young guy named Miguel, just shrugged. "Price is the price, man. Take it or leave it." Aisha rolled her eyes as she grabbed her soda. She'd seen Gary around before, always complaining, always acting like the world owed him something. She didn't think much of it until she walked past him on her way to pay. Gary turned, catching sight of her, and his face twisted up like he'd smelled something bad. "Oh, great," he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. "Another one of you people in here. Were you stealing that soda or what?" Aisha stopped dead in her tracks. She turned her head slow, locking eyes with him. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp but steady. "What'd you just say?" Gary didn't back off. He stepped closer, puffing out his chest like he was some big shot. "You heard me, girl. I said, you stealing that? Because that's what your kind does, right? Can't trust none of you." The air in the store got real heavy, real fast. Miguel behind the counter froze, his hand hovering over the register. A couple other customers, a lady with a kid and an old man by the chips, looked over, but nobody said a word. Aisha clenched her fists, the soda can cold against her palm. She wasn't about to let this slide. "My kind?" she shot back. "What's that supposed to mean, huh? You don't even know me?" Gary smirked, like he'd won something already. "I know enough. You people always got your hands in something, probably why this town's gone to hell." Aisha stepped up, her voice rising. "You're a racist piece of trash, you know that? I'm just trying to buy a damn soda, and you over here acting like I'm some criminal." Gary's face went red, his eyes narrowing. "Who you calling trash, you little—" He didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he raised his hand and swung it hard, smacking Aisha right across the face. The sound echoed in the store, a sharp crack that made everyone jump. Aisha stumbled back, her cheeks stinging, her soda hitting the floor with a clatter. Miguel shouted, "Hey, man!" What the hell? But Gary wasn't listening. He pointed a finger at Aisha, spitting words like venom. "You watch your mouth, girl. You don't talk to me like that." Aisha touched her face, feeling the heat where his hand had landed. Her eyes burned with tears, but she blinked them back fast. She wasn't about to cry in front of this guy. "You hit me? You're done, you hear me? Done." Gary laughed, a nasty guttural sound. "What you gonna do about it? Run home to your mama? Go ahead, cry about it." What Gary didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was who Aisha's dad was. Marcus Jackson wasn't just any dad. He was a cop, a sergeant with 15 years on the force, and he didn't play around when it came to his daughter. Aisha pulled out her phone with trembling hands, her cheeks still throbbing, and dialed her dad's number. "Daddy," she said when he picked up, her voice loud enough for Gary to hear, "some guy just hit me in the store." "You hit me. I need you here now." Gary's smirk faded a little, but he still stood there, arms crossed like he wasn't worried. "Go ahead, call whoever you want," he sneered. "Ain't nobody going to do nothing to me." Marcus was only a few blocks away when he got the call, sitting in his patrol car, finishing up a report. The second he heard Aisha's voice, he was on his feet, the radio crackling as he told his partner. I gotta go. My kid's in trouble. He didn't wait for a response, just hit the gas and sped toward the store, his heart pounding in his chest. Back at the store, Aisha kept her eyes on Gary, her phone still in her hand. You're going to regret this, she said, her voice low and fierce. You have no idea who you just messed with. Gary rolled his eyes. Oh, I'm shaking. What's your boyfriend going to come fight me? Bring it on. Miguel stepped out from behind the counter, trying to calm things down. Look, man, just leave her alone, all right? You don't need to make this worse. Shut up, Gary snapped, turning on him. This ain't your business, kid. They out of it? That's when the door burst open and Marcus Jackson walked in. He was a big man, over 6 feet tall, with a presence that filled the room. His uniform was crisp, his badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. His eyes locked on Aisha first, seeing the red mark on her cheek, and then they shifted to Gary. The whole store went silent. Aisha, Marcus said, his voice deep and controlled, but you could hear the anger simmering underneath. This the guy? Aisha nodded, pointing at Gary. Yeah, Daddy. He slapped me, called me all kinds of names too. Marcus turned to Gary, stepping closer. You put your hands on my daughter? Gary's confidence cracked. He took a step back, his hands up like he was trying to play it off. Ooh, hold on now. I didn't know she was your kid, all right? She was mouthing all, disrespecting me. Disrespecting you? Marcus cut him off, his voice rising. You think you get to hit a 16-year-old girl because she talked back? You think that's okay? Gary stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. Look, officer, I didn't mean no harm. It was just a little tap, you know. She's fine. Aisha jumped in, her voice loud and furious. A little tap? You hit me hard enough to knock my drink out my hand. Don't lie about it now. Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at Aisha, then back at Gary. You're a grown man and you're hitting kids? My kid? You got a death wish or something? Gary's eyes darted around, looking for a way out. I didn't know she was your daughter, man. I swear, I wouldn't have done it if I knew. That's your excuse? Marcus said, stepping even closer. You're only sorry because you got caught. What if she wasn't my kid? You just walk away laughing? The lady with the kid in the corner finally spoke up, her voice shaking. He was yelling at her before he hit her, calling her name, saying racist stuff. I saw the whole thing. Gary spun around, pointing at her. You shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. Marcus grabbed Gary's arm, twisting it behind his back in one smooth move. You don't talk to nobody else in here, he said, his voice like steel. You're dealing with me now. Gary yelped, struggling against the grip. Let go. This is police brutality. I got rights. You got rights, Marcus said, leaning in close. You lost your rights when you put your hands on my daughter. You're looking on to break your damn arm right here. Aisha stood there, arms crossed, watching her dad handle it. Told you were done, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. You should have kept your hands to yourself. Miguel chimed in. I got it on camera too, the whole thing. He can't deny it. Marcus nodded at Miguel. Good. I'll need that footage. This clown's going downtown. Gary started panicking, his voice high and desperate. Downtown for what? It was just a slap. You can't arrest me for that. Assault on a minor, Marcus said, pulling out his cuffs. And I'm betting when we dig into you, we'll find more. You don't strike me as a guy who's clean. The cuffs clicked around Gary's wrists, and he kept yelling as Marcus dragged him toward the door. This ain't fair. You're only doing this because she's your kid. This is favoritism. Marcus stopped, turning Gary to face him. No, I'm doing this because you're a coward who hits girls and thinks he can get away with it. You picked the wrong one today. Aisha followed them outside, her soda forgotten on the floor. A small crowd had gathered now, people from the street who'd heard the commotion. They watched as Marcus shoved Gary into the back of the patrol car, slamming the door shut. Gary was still shouting, his voice muffled through the glass. You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll have your badge. Marcus ignored him, turning to Aisha. You okay, baby girl? He asked, his tone softening. Aisha nodded, touching her cheek. Yeah, Daddy. I'm good, just mad as hell. You did right calling me, he said. I'm proud of you for standing up to him. Aisha smirked. He didn't know what hit him. Marcus chuckled, but his face got serious again. I'm taking him in. You head home, all right? I'll be there as soon as I can. Aisha nodded, watching as her dad got in the car and drove off, Gary still ranting in the back seat. She stood there for a minute, the adrenaline still pumping through her. The crowd started whispering, some of them pulling out phones to record or call their friends. Word was already spreading. Gary Miller missed with the wrong girl, and her cop dad wasn't letting it slide. By the time Marcus got Gary to the station, the guy was sweating bullets. He kept trying to talk his way out of it, his voice loud and whiny. Look, officer, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean it. Can we just let this go? Marcus didn't even look at him as he filled out the paperwork. You don't get to hit my daughter and walk away. You don't get to hit anybody and walk away. Another cop, Officer Daniels, walked over, glancing at Gary in the holding cell. What's this one in for? He asked. Assault, Marcus said, his voice flat. Slapped my kid in the face at the corner store. Got it on video, too. Daniels raised an eyebrow. Your kid? Aisha? Oh, he's screwed, Gary overheard and started banging on the bars. This ain't right. You're ganging up on me because you're all buddies. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, Marcus said, not looking up. And you're going to need one. Back at home, Aisha walked in and dropped her bag by the door. Her mom, Tanya, was in the kitchen stirring something on the stove. She turned when she heard Aisha come in, and her face dropped when she saw the mark on her cheek. What happened to you? Tanya asked, rushing over. Who did that? Aisha sighed, sitting down at the table. Some racist jerk at the store. He hit me after I called him out. Daddy's got him now, though. Tanya's eyes went wide. He hit you? Oh, hell no. Where's your father at? At the station, Aisha said. He arrested the guy. Said he's not letting it go. Tanya shook her head, her hands on her hips. Good. I hope Marcus throws the book at him. Nobody touches my baby and gets away with it, Aisha smirked. He didn't know Daddy was a cop. You should have seen his face when he showed up. Tanya laughed, but it was a hard, angry laugh. Serves him right. I bet he's crying now. Down at the station, Gary wasn't crying yet, but he was close. His lawyer showed up an hour later, a tired-looking guy in a cheap suit who didn't seem thrilled to be there. What's the charge? The lawyer asked Marcus. Assault on a minor, Marcus said, handing over the report. We got witnesses, video, everything. Your client's not talking his way out of this. The lawyer glanced at Gary, who was pacing in the cell. He says it was just a misunderstanding. Marcus stared at him. He slapped my 16-year-old daughter in the face. You call that a misunderstanding? The lawyer winced, flipping through the papers. All right, let me talk to him. Gary grabbed the bars as the lawyer walked up. Get me out of here. They're framing. This is a setup. The lawyer sighed. They've got video, Gary. Witnesses, too. You're not helping yourself by yelling. Gary's face went pale. Video? What video? What store camera, the lawyer said. Caught the whole thing. You're on tape hitting the girl. Gary slumped against the bars, his voice dropping. I didn't know her dad was a cop. I wouldn't have done it if I knew. The lawyer shook his head. That's not a defense, man. You're in deep. Back at home, Aisha was on the phone with her best friend, Keisha, telling her everything. Girl, you should have seen it, Aisha said, her voice loud with excitement. He thought he was tough, slapping me like that. Then Daddy rolled up, and he was shook. Keisha laughed on the other end. Oh, my God, I wish I was there. What'd your dad do? Put him in cuffs and dragged him out, Aisha said. He was yelling about his rights the whole time like anybody cared. Man, that's wild, Keisha said. You okay, though? That mark on your face looks bad. Aisha touched her cheek, shrugging even though Keisha couldn't see it. It stings, but I'm good. He's the one who's hurting now. Word kept spreading around town. By the next morning, people were talking about it everywhere. On the street, in the barbershop, at the gas station. Gary Miller, the loudmouth who always had something to say, finally picked the wrong fight. Some folks said he had it coming. Others said he was just stupid. Either way, nobody felt sorry for him. At the station, Marcus sat across from Gary during the interrogation, the video playing on a screen between them. There it was. Gary's hand swinging, Aisha stumbling back, the soda hitting the floor. Marcus's face didn't change as he watched, but his hands were tight on the table. You got anything to say? Marcus asked when it was over. Gary stared at the floor, his voice small. I messed up. All right. I'm sorry. Marcus leaned forward. You're sorry now? After you hit her? After you called her those names? Gary didn't look up. I didn't mean it like that. I was just mad. You don't get to be just mad and hit my kid, Marcus said. You don't get to be just mad and say what you said. You're going to pay for this, and I'm making sure of it. The case moved fast. With the video, the witnesses, and Marcus pushing it, Gary didn't have a chance. He got charged with assault, and the judge didn't go easy. 3 months in jail, a fine, and a record that followed him forever. People said he deserved worse, but Marcus was satisfied. He won't touch anybody else's kid, he told Aisha when it was over. That's what matters. Aisha nodded, sitting on the couch with a new soda in her hand. He learned his lesson. Don't mess with the cop's daughter. Marcus smiled, ruffling her hair. Don't mess with my daughter, period. And that was that. Gary Miller faded into the background, just another story people told when they wanted to talk about karma. Aisha kept her head high, her cheek healing up, and life went on. But nobody in that town forgot the day a racist loudmouth slapped the wrong girl and found out her dad was the law.